This is part 2 of a video series, and I'm just gonna say, like, this video will not be interesting for quite a few folks out there in this audience if you're a regular viewer. This is all about how I do my makeup. This is something that has been requested a lot over the years, so I finally sat down and I did it. But if you don't care anything about makeup and you're like, I don't wanna see you put on eyelashes, Joni, totally cool. I do have a video, however, about how we light a makeup tutorial, which you might find more interesting. So if you want to watch that video, it is linked down below, walks through how I set up this lighting, everything going on here. But if you want to watch me do my makeup, watch how I turn into this, you can go ahead and stick around. So I have probably watched hundreds of makeup tutorials online over the years, so this is kind of hilarious to be filming one of my own. And of course, the big disclaimer here is I'm a complete amateur. This is just how I do my own personal makeup. And today specifically, I'm gonna show you how I do it when I'm gonna be on camera. So for YouTube videos or television, anytime I just kind of need something a little more pumped up than your regular everyday makeup. But like, let's be honest, I just really love makeup, so even sometimes like random Wednesday, let's bust out the sparkles, right? So let's go ahead and jump into it. So I've already washed my face and moisturized, a little toner, a little moisturizer. I will link all of my favorite products down below, as well as, I think, maybe, we'll see how many of these can be found. Some of these may be kind of older products or different things like that. So I will reference as many as possible down below. But I'm moisturized. Moisturizer is super important for when we're applying makeup to the skin. This is something I didn't know for a long time, but thinking I don't want to add moisture. It's just going to make everything look tacky, but it really helps to create a nice kind of smooth palette for all of our makeup to go on too. So if you're not currently moisturizing, gonna highly recommend finding one that works for you. And then what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna prime my face and prime my eyelids. So I'm gonna prime my face here with the TULA skincare, just do a little drop of it, and get my mirror here and just kind of put it into the main parts of the face. So, you know, the thing with primer, I've started using it, but I do sort of wonder, like, is this necessary? Is this a placebo? Is this just something that the brands want us to buy, a thing that we think we need? And maybe, but you know, I love makeup, so not hurting anybody, right? And then I'm gonna go ahead and prime my eyelids. This was a game changer. This is the Too Faced Shadow Insurance. There's different ones out there, but this one's my favorite. And all we have to do is just get a little drop on the finger and then rub it in and just put it on the lids. And what this is doing is just helping to create a really nice smooth surface and helping like our shadow to really adhere. If you've ever had problems, which I've had before I discovered this, of it sort of kind of getting all kind of bunched up in the creases over the course of a day, I don't necessarily have oily skin, but definitely like if you had a comparison of oily versus dry, I'd say it's a little oilier. And so you'd end up with like creases in the crease of your eyelid. And so this really helps everything to just sort of stay in place. So we are primed there. I take an additional step on top of that just to create, again, nice smooth palette for everything, or canvas more or less for everything to go onto. So just have some nice pressed powder here. This one's from Neutrogena, which you'll notice is all of my products are all super pale, because I don't know if you noticed, I'm super pale. It's okay. That's why we love sunscreen, right? Working with what the good Lord gave us. So I'm just going over with just some pressed powder here, neutral color, just to create that nice canvas for our eyeshadow to go onto. Because what you're gonna see is I go in with quite a few different eyeshadows to add some dimension, because my face is a little one note right now. So let's add some depth to it. So now at this point, I work on my eyes. I personally like to do my eyes before I do my foundation and the rest of my face, because as fallout starts to happen, we start to put shadow here that, you know, I don't know, falling out here, and we'll get maybe some messes going on here. So I do the eyes first, or the majority of the eyes, then I do my foundation, so that it kind of helps to clean up all of that sort of mess I made doing the eyes. So this is one of my favorite neutral palettes. This is ColourPop That's Taupe. I think I got this at Ulta. Fairly affordable, good quality, and these are just like some really nice neutrals, and I like the pigmentation. If you've not really dug into the world of eyeshadows and makeups in general, like you'll notice one of the major defining factors of quality eyeshadows versus non-quality eyeshadows is just how pigmented they are and how well they kind of apply to the skin. That was like, for years of using super cheap, like not great eyeshadows, and all of a sudden trying some nicer stuff is like, oh, this is new. So I like this because we've got a lot of transition colors. So when we think about how we're gonna build our eyeshadow, we wanna start to add some darkness. For me personally, this is based on the shape of my face and just trial and error over the years, but I wanna add some darkness to the edges as well as into the crease area just to create some depth and dimension. So a transition color is something that's sort of a neutral, but then we're gonna go in with some darker colors, we're gonna go in with some lighter colors, but this is sort of like a middle tone that allows sort of that gradient effect, if you will. So I'm just gonna come in here. This is a nice big fluffy brush. This is a set that I got, I think at Ulta. I can't remember the specifics. I'll see if I can go find my shopping cart and pull it up for you. And then you can see that we're just kind of going around right here into the crease. Going in with Python. It's this kind of darker neutral, like it's darker neutral for me, obviously. Snow White here. Anything that's like slightly tan is much darker than my skin. So just kind of covering over, all over. There we go. So now keeping that same exact palette, I'm gonna come in with a slightly tighter brush. So you can see kind of the comparison. This is kind of a more fluffy. Do we have to do the YouTuber thing where we go, boom? Yeah, it works. So you can see this one that I used before is a little fluffier, kind of gets things all moved around. This one's a little bit tighter and thinner. So it's gonna have a much more kind of direct application. It's not gonna just sort of smooth it around. So I'm just gonna put in a little bit of shadow here. And then I'm coming into kind of the outside of the corner and just working it outward. This is how, again, I'm gonna create some dimension to my eyes and sort of keeping it there on the outside. In terms of colors, you know, color theory, just like it works in our food photography, works in makeup as well. I recently read a book all about color theory as it relates to makeup, and I will link that down below. It was a really interesting read, and I feel like it also sort of informed decisions that I make in food photography. So highly recommend thinking about color theory. And obviously color theory as it relates to different people is gonna be different. You know, I've got sort of more greenish eyes and paler skin and darker hair. And so some of the things that would work for me may not work for you, obviously. All right, so just kind of packing around the edges there. I gotta say, doing my makeup underneath video lights, like this is, this is a whole new experience. This is great. So now what I'm gonna do is we added darkness to the outside. I'm gonna add some lightness sort of to the middle and to the inside, which then I'm gonna go over top of with some sparkles because I love a little shimmer sparkle action. This is sort of inspired by the idea of a cut crease, but I'm not committing to a full cut crease situation. I don't necessarily need like all that drama. If you're not familiar with cut crease, I'll link a helpful video that's sort of a basic tutorial. But if you just search cut crease on YouTube, you'll see all manner of different ways to do it. But I'm coming in here with this Winky Luxe. I tell you, some of the names. This is a Galaxy Kitten palette. Lord have mercy. This is funny. I bought this one probably because I love a good, like I just need a good matte black to do stuff with, which we'll do stuff in a moment with, but I'm taking the Milky Way, so this little really nice and light color, and I'm gonna come in here at the inside and just pat in toward the center. There we go. And you can see I'm doing this with kind of this flatter brush, so it's pretty thin and flat. But just adding this sort of bright pop, and you can just start to see too, and I sort of blend it a little bit. I'm not like crazy packing it, and I come up to the crease or even just a little higher than the crease. This will make the eyelid appear a little larger if you don't have like huge lids that you're working with. So you can even see just how that kind of creates a different sort of look and a shape. We add a little bit more pop here because of the addition of that lighter color. Now maybe you're thinking, wait, Joni, why didn't you just kind of leave no shadow in that inner part when you were adding that before? You know, we put the those darker brown colors over. You know, you could have sort of left this open, but I find it's easier just to come in with a lighter color afterwards. Sort of the idea in painting of layering our paints, you know, going in with one color and then building on top of that layer of pen layer until we get to the look that we want. And it just creates, I don't know, dynamic feel. That's my story, I'm sticking to it. Just in case it helps, I just zoomed in. I thought maybe you need to see a little closer up. I mean, not that you need to see every pore on my face, but here we go. We're letting it all hang out. So I'm coming back in with the Winky Luxe palette and coming in with this dark color here, this black. It's Eclipse, close to a black, and I'm gonna use this. I do different colors on the outsides. I feel like this is kind of where I get a little wild and fun. I like this black. I used this one because this is a nice, like, I think again, an Ulta selection here, so not crazy expensive. I do have a McGrath palette that I absolutely love that has like this plum color to it, which for my eye color really kind of helps to make it pop. Sometimes I'll put a purple out there, but sort of taking this darker shadow and just bringing it in the corner and working it just ever so slightly up, but really not taking it super far. You see, I've just kind of put that down there, and I placed it with this little kind of smaller tipped sort of, I don't know, like this one you can really pack some pigment in there. But now I'm gonna come in and I'm just gonna smooth this out. So just getting my nice fluffy brush, not that fluffy brush, hold on. We got a lot of fluffy brushes in here. Coming in with a little guy like this. I don't even know where you're from. Blending crease. This looks like a BH Cosmetics. I admit I'm not super up on the details of all the brushes. I just sort of buy what I think I need. And I'm just gonna blend this because that's always the trick to eyeshadow, right? Is that we want it nice and blended, sort of that gradient effect. Just like soft light, right? We look at soft light and it's a gradient from the light to the shadow. We're creating the same exact thing happening here on our eyeballs. All right. So you can see, whoa, so much more dimension. Then we come in and do the same exact thing on the other side. Just pack it out. You can see this little trick right here. If you get too much shadow on it, just tap it out. You see you put some on there and you're like, oh, got too much. Tap, tap, tap. That helps to just sort of knock it off. There we go. And working it up ever so slightly and creating this nice sort of like blend from the light to the dark. And you know the idea of contrast, right? I mean, this is all completely applicable for food photography. Oh my gosh, photography in general. The contrast from the light to the dark, and when they're right up next to each other, that's when we get a real punch, a real pop. And then I'm just gonna come in with kind of a big fluffy brush. This is that one that I put the powder on right after I prime my eyes. I'm just gonna come over and just sort of move everything around. Just kind of blend it all, blend it all. This is like my little bit of blending insurance. All right, so we're doing good, making good progress. All right, so I'm gonna add a little bit of extra warmth into my crease and kind of bring some of the shadow a little further up. And I'm using the Revolution Pro palette. It's got like, I don't know what that sticker is. I just start sticking stickers on, you know, you like open up packages, you're like, I'll just stick that on there. I love Revolution products in general. They're super affordable. You find them at Ulta. Good quality, good pigmentation, lots of fun colors in this palette. We've got a lot of sparkles going on. But I'm gonna pull in this claret. So it's sort of a, let's see, right here. This one right here. It's sort of a purpley tone, which with, again, the green eyes and the paler skin, for me, that's a good choice. And I'm just coming in with this bigger fluffy brush with that claret and just bringing it a little higher, giving my lids a illusion. It's an illusion, Michael. A little bit more space and size. We really want our eyeballs to look big, right? Big old eyeballs. We don't need no filters. We just need some makeup. And we don't need makeup. I just really enjoy makeup. That's also my big thing, right? It drives me nuts when people are like, you look so much different with makeup. I'm like, I know. That's because it's makeup. My regular face looks great. This face looks great. They're all great, right? I find makeup to be a fun form of personal expression and creativity, just like food photography. You know, it's a way to play with colors and light and dimension and get creative. So, okay. So that just added a little extra color for us. We looking good? We looking good? It's so funny because I've got a monitor down here that I'm sort of like monitoring what's happening, but then like the monitor in my eyes here. All right, so now I am gonna go ahead and add the sparkle. And one of my new favorites is back to this ColourPop, that's Taupe palette, and it's this slated. It's just like super shimmer action. You can use your finger to apply it, which will really help to kind of get it to adhere. I am gonna go ahead and use a brush on this, which gives a little bit lighter in terms of like, if you just play around with different pigments and different brushes and different applicators, you'll see that they do apply differently. And so like using a brush versus using your finger, like the finger is gonna really pack it in there, the brush not so much, but also kind of depending on the different kind of brush, like this brush in particular, this one I love for doing shimmers and sparkles. Like you can see it's like already shimmery. That's all I ever use it for. But it's got this ability to really kind of nicely, tightly pack the pigments for me. So I'm just gonna come in and pick up some of that. Let's really get some in there. All right. And then come on to, and I'm just gonna put this over where we put that lighter shade and just really drag it and press it. Because if we just like lightly brushed it, it wouldn't quite adhere as well. Ooh, I love me some shimmer and sparkle. There we go. Get a little bit more. And you can see I'm just sort of coming onto that 3/4. There's sort of like this stop right here, right? Where it becomes dark. And that just again helps to create sort of that idea of contrast and dimension. 3-dimensionality is what we're looking for in our eyes. Here we go. And then come in, do the same exact thing on the other side. Now just because I want a little bit more intensity, I'm gonna come in, use my ring finger here, and just pat it down ever so slightly right there. And that just really, that's gonna pack it on. There we go. We got some shimmer, we got some sparkles. I love it. Okay, so now what I'm gonna come in and do is my eyeliner. And you say, what about the lower lid? We'll get there. I usually do the lower lids actually after I do the foundation. So this is my process. Not that it's right, it's just what I've followed over the years. So I'm gonna come in and line my eyes. This is a trick that I've picked up recently that I really like, and it really helps for me that especially, well, hold on, let's one thing at a time. I'm like, my brain wants to tell you all the things at the same exact moment, but we gotta get there. So I'm using this black eyeliner pencil from NYX. I like this one, nice and pigmented. It's just like really creamy and goes on. I also love that it's like a twisty as opposed to like one that you have to do a sharpener, because Lord have mercy, those sharpeners, I can never get it right. I always end up breaking the pencil and I feel like I waste so much product. So I love the little twisty action. So I am gonna line my top waterline. So when you look at your eyelid, you've got kind of that outer part, right? Like the part that's above the lash line, and that is typically, like when I was growing up, what I was taught, like where you put your eyeliner. Well, you can create a little bit of extra magic by lining the area underneath the lash line, our water line. It is kind of like watery, right? It's directly touching the eyeball. But because then you end up with a contrast of the lid, because right now my lid, especially the water line, is kind of that light pinky color, and my eyeball is white, that if we turn that light pinky color into black, and then that will contrast with the white, it really makes it pop. So it's a little tricky. My best advice for doing this is to open up your lids. Well, I mean, I look like a wild woman right now in this video. I just glanced at the monitor. I'm like, holy buckets, y'all. But the trick is, if you look down, right, which is helpful because I have the mirror down here, but that if your like pupil, is that the pupil? Like the colorful and the dark part are not being touched by the pencil, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. And you just kind of rub it around. Here we go. And I take it all the way in, woo, to the inner corner. And see, I mean, it's like, it's subtle. This is the thing. I do these things and people are like, I can't tell the difference. I was like, I can totally tell the difference. So you can see just lining that, how that has just changed the eye a bit. And so gonna come in here. And obviously this is the natural shape of my eye. I've not really, and I'm coming up and now doing sort of the upper part of the lid as well, above the lash line, just ever so slightly. I don't want to take it too high. But when I started doing this, it really just created some nice dimension for the eyes without a lot of effort. And so the days when I'm doing more minimal makeup, I will still line just the waterline, maybe add a little bit of like dark powder along the top here like I'll do in a moment, and then pop on some mascara and I'm good to go. And I just find that this has really given me some extra punch without a whole lot of effort. So you can just see now how it looks different when it's lined, when it's not lined. Let's go ahead and do the other side. All right, liner is down, and I just do that on the top. You can do it on the bottom as well, but it will sort of make the eyes look a bit smaller. It does have sort of this dramatic, sort of sparkly look that sometimes I'll do, but we're not gonna do that today. I'm kind of going more for the classic, getting us some nice, big old eyeballs. Like, it sounds so weird. You know, these are the things that like go on in our minds, and then when we verbalize it, you're like, why are we doing this? Okay, anyway, so now we're lined. I'm just gonna come in with an additional layer, just some kind of touch-ups now of back in with the Eclipse. You can see why I love a black eyeshadow. This is like the little bit of drama. And I'm coming in here. This is my favorite pencil brush. I've worn off the brand. You can see the tip on it. It's just like a nice little, it's a pencil brush, and it's like angled so that I can use this for just adding a little bit of extra powder over top of the top liner. There we go. Kind of mostly working towards the outside and coming in and just dragging it. I don't know. This is like just little refined touch-ups that just kind of add. And I love using powder for stuff like this. I feel like it was always taught, use liquid eyeliner or creams or other things like that. But this, like powder, it just creates a nice sort of softness, and softness is, like soft light. I like soft tones. I just like soft. So using powder in these applications is really, really quite nice. All right, so we are all fully lined. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and start on my foundation. I'm not gonna do the lower parts of my eyelashes or the mascaras. Like this is my process I've developed over the years. But I'm coming in with my holy grail, and then I'm so sad they've discontinued it. I bought like 10 of them because I could tell like a year ago, like every time I go to Ulta, there'd be less and less of it. Like all of a sudden, like the display case just kept getting smaller and smaller for this product. I'm like, they are gonna freaking, like, I mean, I've been buying this for like 15 years now, but I knew they were gonna discontinue it. And this last time I went, it was. It's okay, I've got a stockpile. So this is the Lumi True Match foundation, and this is from L'Oreal, so not super spendy, not crazy expensive. I love this stuff. They have it in like a neutral line, a warm line, and a cool line. So I went neutral. Neutral 2 is my color. But the reason that I love this foundation is that it's kind of dewy, right? So especially as we start to get older and our skin starts to get a little, just drier, or just, it starts to show a bit of age. Having something with just a little bit of dewiness kind of gives that illusion of youthfulness, right? But this, it just always goes on really smooth. It doesn't clump up on me. I'm just using a beauty blender here and just a little squirt right there. I see people put it on the backs of their hands, do all sorts of stuff, but I just put it straight on and then straight onto my face. And just a little PSA, make sure you're cleaning your beauty blender and your brushes on a regular basis. I just use, soap and water, nothing wild and crazy, but it's just nice to really help if you have problems with breakouts or acne, things like that. I mean, anytime we're putting any sort of bacteria into our face, that's a problem. And so this just helps by making sure you have clean brushes and blenders, but just coming in all around the face. I do like the Beauty Blender brand of beauty blenders better. I have one of those. I use this guy for my concealer, which we'll do next. But there is something to the texture of them that they make everything smoother. Like knockoff beauty blenders, to me, they just don't work as well. But maybe there's a brand out there. If there's a brand of knockoff beauty blender that you like, share it in the comments below. If there's any products in general that you really like, let us know. All right, make sure we come all the way down to the chin, right? all the way underneath so we don't end up with any lines. I mean, my foundation, I think, tell me if I'm wrong. I could be living under a delusion for all these years that my foundation matches my skin. I don't go super heavy with it, and this is not a full coverage. Maybe is it? Sometimes they say whether or not they're a full coverage. This one's not. Like, you can still see through to my skin. You can still see some of the texture and some of the imperfections. I'm not going for like porcelain doll effect, you know? All right, so that's foundations down. So now I'm gonna come in with my other favorite. This is, you know, loved and abused. And I don't think they have phased this one out yet. This is the Naked Skin Urban Decay. And you can see that I do my concealer after my foundation. This was something that I did wrong for years. Like, I always thought you do your concealer first and then you do your foundation. But the beauty YouTubers out there have taught me that we do concealer second. So just come in, do some little dots underneath here just to brighten things up. I also usually come in a little around here because usually it's a little redness right there, but that's about all I do. Nothing too wild. And then come in with that beauty blender. I like this guy because he's just a little bit pointier and a little, like, he can get in the smaller areas, like in between the eye. All right. Coming up under, and I do have some wrinklage going on. It's because it's normal and that's how our faces work. I'm sure that I don't really pack out the pigment underneath the eyelid because then we just end up with bunching. We end up with creases over time. Like, it's just inevitable. It's called physics. So we just kind of bring that in here. I go lighter versus heavier. Like, as we get older, if you get super heavy-handed with your concealers and other things like that, like, it's just inevitable that I don't care how good a quality that product is, it's gonna bunch up over the course of a day. So I've got my concealer down, blended that in. We're not looking like a raccoon, are we? Okay. So now I'm gonna come in with just my pressed powder here and get a nice fluffy brush. So I got some nice little brush here just to kind of start out. We're not doing the shake and bake thing, right? Like, if you watch YouTube videos and you're like, they bake their foundation. Again, that's a recipe for disaster in my book if you're older than 25. I don't know, maybe I'm doing it wrong, but every time I've done it, I'm like, I look like the Sahara Desert after, and that's not a cute look for me. Coming in and really kind of knocking down the shine. This is specifically too for when I'm filming videos, because I get so shiny. You've probably seen, I get so shiny, especially in the summer because it gets hot in here. I turn off the air conditioning because the sound of it. All right, so now I'm just gonna come in with a little extra kind of punch of warmth. When we're under lights and in front of cameras, things like that, like, we can tend to be washed out, and somebody with a complexion like mine can start to look like Casper the Friendly Ghost or Death Warmed Over. And so in order to help avoid that, I do wanna add just a bit more kind of bronzer, a little bit of extra color than maybe I would in every day. So I come in here with Physicians Formula Matte Butter bronzer. Some people, this would be your foundation. For me, this is a bronzer. That I'm just gonna come in here up into kind of the hollows of my cheeks, and then come in around, pull up the hair and come in around sort of the temple area. Because you think about, you want your, I don't know, like, just in terms of creating a shape for the face, kind of bringing these features forward, kind of helping create some angular sort of feel. So just pulling in. I'm gonna have to redo my hairs after this. There we go. Ooh, hairs. Of course, this is why you do your hair after you do your makeup. All right, there we go. Also coming in underneath the chin. I don't do the whole, like, wild, like, getting all the colors. Yeah, I see those things, I go, wow, that's some next level trickery, but I don't do that. I just add a little bit of extra warmth around the face and call it good. So now I'm gonna put in some blush. I was so scared for so many years to use blush because I feel like I saw too many people with, like, super intense blush. And super intense blush can look great, and, like, from a trends perspective, it comes and goes. But I just wanted something that looked natural, but, like, erred on the side of too little. And so I remember the first time I did TV, my friend who's in media and things like that, she's like, girl, get yourself some blush. Like, you look like death. I'm like, oh, thanks. That's a true friend right there. But just gonna come in now The apples of the cheeks, you saw that I did the little trick, right? Put a little bit of the blush on there, knock some of the excess off, because again, I don't want to get like super streaky. I just want a nice little kind of elevated punch of color. And coming in here. Aw, cute. And when it comes to brushes, I mean, I feel like at this point I use, like this is my blush brush. Like I just always use blush on this. I do have different blushes. This one in particular that I'm using here today is from Revlon. It's Ravishing Rose. So, you know, just kind of good basic blush action, but I just always end up using the brushes for like the one sort of single use. So I don't have to worry about, I don't know, different colors mixing and things like that. All right, so what's on next? Let's do the eyebrows, because I have no eyebrows. I mean, I do have eyebrows, but they're pretty minimal, especially in contrast to the darkness of my hair, which is at this point not natural. It comes from my hairstylist who does a beautiful job. Thank you, Yvonne. So I come back in with that pencil brush with the black. So at this point, there was already black used on this, right? Because remember, I took this and put it on the outsides with that black from the palette. And so there's still some pigment left over. And what I do is I come in and I use that on my eyebrows. This is like, I don't know if this is like cheater eyebrows or super easy, but it works for me. So I just need to add some color. And this is also something that I have practiced and figured out over the years, like in terms of the shape and the size, like, you know, avoiding the angry eyebrows, avoiding the scary eyebrows. So I just come in over sort of like, I can see naturally where my eyebrows start and just sort of like lightly, like I'm using a really soft hand at this point and just dragging it up. I do kind of come higher than because my natural lashes are not that high. Like they just sort of peter out here on the end. So I do kind of bring it a little higher. And you know, eyebrows are, so when we talk about composition and like dynamic symmetry and the Fibonacci sequence and all those other things, like in terms of like measurements and numerical values, like your eyebrows follow that, like where the little crest, like the little point of the eyebrows comes. If you get like deep into the YouTubes and like the eyebrow people and the people who do microblading and things like that, it's all based on math and like equations. It's pretty cool. I kind of go by feel. Been doing this enough years at this point that I've got it figured out, but I do need to bring it out a little further. It's fascinating to me how much an eyebrow can change a face, right? Like just, it's wild, like just the definition we're getting here. So this is just, again, black powder, black eyeshadow, you know, depending on the color of your hair, that would be different. But then what I do is I come in with, so I do have, you know, the famous Anastasia Beverly Hills brow wiz situation, which you can come in here and do little flicks and things like that with the pencil, right? I think this is more of a gray brown, but we can add just a little bit more definition, you know, because the brush isn't like crazy precise, but I also don't want precision eyebrows. So I come in with the pencil side, but then coming in with the spoolie side and just kind of like going over it, sort of knocking some of that product off and also bringing the hairs upward. You can kind of see if I lean in. There we go. So just kind of dragging those upward, but it's also knocking product off, which in this case I want, because I want to knock some of that product off. I want these to be soft, not intense. Maybe you want intense eyebrows. Go for it. Knock yourself out. So, and then I come in over top with some additional powder. Come in with the pressed powder again. There we go. And just kind of blend over top so it softens them out. But now you can see eyebrow done, no eyebrow done. So we're just gonna do the same thing on this other side. I can't remember which YouTuber said it. It was probably Jaclyn Hill. I've been following Jaclyn Hill for forever. I feel like at some point it was her, Nikki Tutorials, Tati Westbrook, they're all faves, said, you know, eyebrows are sisters, not twins. So I just always appreciated that, because I'm like, this one's a little rounder, this one's a little thinner, like they're not the same. My face is not perfectly symmetrical, and neither are most people's eyebrows. So if I end up doing goofy stuff on one of the sides that I need to sort of clean up, I just come in with the beauty blender that I did my foundation with and just sort of bring it back, right? Like, so I can just sort of fix that problem right there. So let's fix that problem right there. End up with a little extra shadow on the edges. The other good news is if I booger up this side, I can just put the hair over it. Sometimes you see my hair's on this side. Sometimes it's this side. It's probably because my eyebrows. No, it's not. That's a lie. Okay, so now we've got the shadow down. We've got our eyebrows on. Let's go ahead and do the lower lash line. So I'm going to come in here with the Revolution palette. And let's see, I have got my lower lash line brush. So kind of similar, small little tipped brush. And he's very thin and easy for packing on shadow in a very specific place. So I'm gonna come in here. I like to keep my lower line, like I wanna define it, but I don't want it to be super dark personally, because I want everything moving upward. You know, over time, gravity starts to take place, and so things start to, you know, go downward. Well, we wanna keep everything up. So for me and my age and my face, I keep it lighter here so that we've got sort of this more upward trajectory. So coming in with Scarlet right here, sort of a brown, and I'm gonna keep it focused mostly towards the outside. I don't line all the way in because I don't wanna make my eyes look smaller. I feel like this was a trick that I saw many, many moons ago. Stephanie Seymour, supermodel, 1990s. I feel like I saw a makeup tutorial. My mom worked for Revlon when I was a kid. And I feel like I saw something and she was like, I only line 3/4 of my eyelid. And I was like, that is fascinating, Stephanie Seymour, tell me more. And it was more about like, you know, again, just kind of keeping the eye looking open, because light, you know, when we think about color theory, lighter colors advance, darker colors recede, right? As well as warmer colors advance, cooler colors recede. And so kind of that combination of factors. But if I want my eyes to look larger, like a white spot and a dark spot put right next to each other, the light spot will look larger because it's expanding, whereas the dark spot will look smaller as it's detracting. So sort of taking that same sort of philosophy into our eyeliner. So being ever so slightly faint with it and kind of working it out. I don't get super fancy with my lower lash line. I really kind of keep it pretty minimal. And the same sort of idea of that waterline, you can do the waterline, and I do it from time to time when I want to be dramatic and have a moment, or I'm just feeling it, but not today. We're gonna kind of keep this a little more classic. So now coming in for our lashes, and I have my little lash curler. I do my, we're gonna put on false lashes, which I know everybody get excited, but I also do my regular lashes as well, and then put the falsies on top. I've seen people, like I went to a makeup artist once when I was doing a TV thing, and she just only did the false lashes, like she didn't put mascara on my regular lashes, which I don't know, I just always do both, but you know, maybe that's because I'm extra. Anyway, we come in here, and it is amazing how much an eyelash curler can make a difference in terms of the shape of our eyelashes. And I do it on the dry lashes without any sort of mascara on them, just to give them the shape so that once I do put the mascara on, they're kind of already in their go shape. That makes sense. This also helps in days when I'm not doing false lashes and I'm just doing like mascara. All right, this is my all-time favorite. I have gone through a lot of mascaras over the years, but this one is my all-time favorite by Pat McGrath Labs. It is a little spendier than most people would want to spend on mascara, but you know, little goes a long way, lasts a while, and to me, like, it doesn't flake off, it's like nice and smooth, it doesn't clump, it does all the things, all the advertisements you hear about mascara tell you about mascara. Like this one I discovered, and then I was like, oh, this is the holy grail. I think it was like a tester that I got in a Sephora purchase once. You know, they give you the little like test ones. Now, what I will say is I did this last year start using an eyelash serum, and I will say it made a difference. I had like no eyelashes. So it was when I got sucked into an Instagram, you know, the Instagram influencer black hole of purchases and promo codes. That happens, right? So I ended up, I don't have a promo code for this one because I'm not that kind of influencer, but Babe Lash, which it's, I don't know, I feel like that's a silly name, but there's a lot of silly names when it comes to beauty products. I'm like, can we call this something perhaps a bit more, I don't know, can we call this something just a little less I don't know. I mean, I like being feminine. I like being a woman, but sometimes we just get a little ridiculous. And I put a little bit on the lower lash, but I'm not gonna get crazy. I really, again, put the emphasis on the upper, as you can see. So mascara is on. I'm gonna smooth some things out because you know you can make little messes as you're doing stuff. Smooth everything out. Okay, all right, now you ready for this? We're gonna do some false eyelashes. I have lots of different ones. I've tried lots of different ones. I don't like to go too big, but there's a joke with my friends, like, are these TV lashes that you're wearing today, or are these like everyday lashes? Because like I have some TV lashes that are big and they feel big. They're not necessarily like some of the YouTubers I watch big. Some of those I go, wow, I don't know, that feels like a lot. But all right, so now we are gonna officially do this thing. We're gonna do some lashes. So today I'm using the Ardell Professional Lift Effect number 742. I think I bought a ton of these because you know, when you discover a lash that you really like, you're like, I just need to own 20 pairs of this so that I never run out. But I feel like my favorites come and go in the lash department. I feel like the Ardells and the Kiss lashes, some of those affordable ones are great. You don't need to get those super crazy expensive ones. I mean, there's some really lovely expensive ones that I've tried before, like the mink lashes and things like that. But all right, so let's get serious. We're gonna talk lashes here. So, so we pull it off, and you gotta be very careful taking it off the little container. But now there's a couple things that I do to them before I put them on my eyes. So first thing being, I sort of estimate, is this gonna be like lengthwise? I don't want it to be too long, if that makes sense, because you can see how it's like drooping my eye down. Granted, I have not fully attached this, but you can see when it's longer, to me, that can drag the face downward, drag the eyes downward. So for me, and just like the size of my eyes, I typically have to trim my lashes. And usually, again, I sort of kind of visually gauge it. I've figured this out over time. But if I come in, you can see how it's got like on the strip, there's the little bunches. I usually go in like 1 or 2 bunches worth. You can always, you know, just take one and then kind of gauge it, and then take 2, but you can't like uncut once you've cut it. So, and then just coming in with some scissors, cut that little end off. All right, so now it's shorter. And then what I do is I really like, what makes it super much easier to apply is that if it's got some nice curvature, and again, this will also be dependent on the shape of your eyes, but with kind of a more rounded shape eye, I really want some good sort of bend in the center. So I just come in here and I start to kind of like, I really kind of bend it, you know, that, ooh, kind of loosen it up so that it's not so stiff. Because that can be the problem too, if you've ever I've had this happen, right? You put on really stiff, these are a pretty soft band too. This is like a pretty flexible band, but some of them are like really stiff, and if you put them straight on the eyes, then all of a sudden, like by the middle of the day, the inside corners like popped up and off. No, we don't want that. So we're gonna help keep everything in place by just take your time, soften it up. I really soften the inner corner up because I know that if that can stay down and stay in place, I won't have any drama later in the day. So now we have a much more rounded shape, right? Like it's much more rounded like my eye will be. And maybe even more so than I need, but that's okay because that'll kind of help it sort of grip to the eye. And then I love these little guys that come with the Eylure. Like I have a good number of Eylure eyelashes as well. The Dramatic is what I wear when I'm doing like big TV. Like we got the big cameras and they're gonna be further away from you, because that's also something to consider. Like when I shoot for YouTube, y'all are pretty close to my face, right? Like the camera is kind of right there. Whereas when I do a morning TV segment, like the cameras are pretty far away. So that like additional amplification is helpful in those situations. So, but Eylure makes these just come with Eylure lashes. Looks like the Ardell lashes did not come with. There we go. But I like the Eylure glue. I don't like their, like, you know how they sell, so they sell it in its like own glue, like separately in like a bigger container, but I always find that stuff to be so much more tacky and like hard to clean off at the end of the day. And then I end up with like sticky eyes later at the night. This stuff just cleans off really nicely. It applies, it grabs. So it's got just the little paddle, and we go over the strip on the strip lashes. There we go. And I'll tell you, this is lots of years in the practice, you know, lots of years in the making to get to this moment where I can do this. And I can do it pretty quick now. There's been some times when I'm like, oh crap, I'm behind schedule and I gotta throw some lashes on. You get better with it over time. I've learned some really janky lashes in my day to get to this moment. So, you know, maybe you just gotta wear some janky lashes for a while. But okay, so I've got the glue down and now we just sit and blow on it and let it dry a little bit because that will make it more tacky and help it adhere to the eyelid better. So we give it a moment. I usually rush this step. We don't want to let it sit too long. But now that we have got a nice tacky lash, and I start on the inside, and you can see I'm just using my fingers. So I start on the inside and let it sort of grab where I want it to start. And then boop. All right, now we come in with the tweezers. I've got it in the rough place that I want it, roughly where I need it. And so now I come in with my tweezers. I hope my hand's not blocking so you can see this. And take the outside and just make sure to press it down to the actual lid. And then I just kind of come in and continue to adjust and make sure it's in place. Sorry, my hand is blocking. Maybe you'll see it better when I do the other one. But I just come in, boop, 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 kind of press it up a little bit, getting some of that height. Here. There we go. And the placement on this, we did a great job today. And you'll see that the glue is still there and still drying. So, you know, that's fine. It'll dry, it'll look better once it's more fully dried. And then I just kind of press up the corners because again, if they start to droop downward, that kind of brings the shape of the eye downward. So wanting everything to sort of stay up. I also take the tweezers and I kind of smash together my lashes with the false lashes because there's just, you know, there's a little bit of glue there. Just helps everything to stay in place. And I'll wear these all day, like literally all day. They will stay in place. They will not go anywhere. We will be good until later tonight. I will say too, you know, like when I improperly place them, that you can tell, like you'll get to a point in the day and they'll start to like poke at your eye. Again, I've, you know, trial and error practice. But now you can see, look at the difference. Some people, again, I've posted like before and afters and people are like, I can't tell the difference. Other people are like, oh my gosh, look at all the difference it is. So I'll be curious to see, do you see a difference? This to me is just fuller, a little bit more defined, has a little bit more like vertical orientation. And so we're just gonna do the same thing on the other side. All right, let's see. Do the same thing over here. Boop, into place. Let's see if you can see it better now that I'm over here. Ah, yeah, okay. So you can see this inside corner. I just wanna make sure it's kind of in the place that it needs to be and adhering to the skin. There we go. Kind of pressing it down in that corner. Because I tell you, they look wild when they start popping off on the edges. You can see I'm kind of pressing that band into the lash too. There we go. And coming in, pressing the eyelashes a little bit further together. And then I also always just like look at them together and see, okay, are they even? Because sometimes like you'll get one that's kind of more like, oh, I attached it a little further out, or this one's a little further in. So just seeing like, yep, and it's fine if you kind of come in and you're like, oh crap, like one's kind of off. I need to put that in a different place. Like, it's okay. You just take it off and put it back on. No big deal. Just put a little more glue on, let it dry, and put it in. But there we have it, eyelashes. All right, so second to last step, we wanna do the lips. I'm gonna start off with a lip liner. This one is Pat McGrath Labs Forget the Filler Definer Liner. I do like to do a lip liner because it just helps keep everything. Okay, don't talk, you can't talk and do lip liner at the same time, right? You can. But it just helps to kind of keep all of the product where it's supposed to stay. It sort of creates a little boundary, and especially as we get older and we start to end up with some, you know, texture and fine lines around the mouth area that like lipstick can sort of start to slide out. Lip liner can help keep everything in place. And I don't overline my lips or do any of that stuff. The size of my lips is the size of my lips. We're gonna stick to that. Oh my gosh. Okay, hold on. We actually have 2 more things to do. Lip liner, and then I'm gonna come in with a lipstick. I have lots of lipsticks, lots of faves. Today we're just gonna keep with something pretty basic, nice little Revlon drugstore lipstick. This is the Glossed Up Rose. This is a shiny. I kind of like a shiny. I also like a matte. I mean, I like all lipsticks, but let's do. I love a good mauve, you know, like a good cool toned mauve, again, with just the color of my complexion and my overall sort of cool toned look. A nice mauve really helps in this situation. I also have, sometimes we could do a little mix and match, come over with a little bit of this guy for just a little bit, something more. This is Pat McGrath. This is Lady Stardust. So this one is a bit more of, I don't know, like a lighter color. There was a meme that I saw somewhere that was like, universal truth, 2 lipsticks are always better than 1. Totally believe that. Okay, and now we're just gonna come in with a little highlighter. We've got from Becca Cosmetics. This is Moonstone. You know, I mentioned my passion for Jaclyn Hill content, and so I got into Becca when she was doing all the collabs with, was it the Champagne Pop? So coming in with, I use this as my brush for highlighter. I don't go too intense on highlighter, but just come in with a little nice bit of highlight here on the cheekbones. A little pop. There we go. Because what does lighter colors and brighter moments do? Makes things pop forward. So that's why we put a little highlight on the upper cheekbone, right? And we can even come out here up into the brow bone. And people do like a little moment on the tip of the nose, things like that if you're just feeling super wild. And now my favorite part of the entire process, Morphe Continuous Setting Mist. I love this one. I know that MAC makes one, but there is something about the quality of this mist. Like, it's just like the Evian face spray that I use for food photography and food styling. It's like the perfect mist. This is the perfect mist for my face. And so this just helps kind of cement everything in place, make sure it doesn't start moving around. So all we come in and do, there we go. I'll put a lot. I love it. You can't get enough. There we go. Let the mist settle in. I keep my eyelids sort of down because as we've added the moisture, I don't want it to shift around if it's just slightly wet. All right, and then we get the hair back in place. And we're ready to film a YouTube video. So maybe you learned a thing or two, or you're just like, wow, that's a lot more work than I thought, or oh, maybe that's not as complicated as you thought. Who knows? But I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. Feel free to let me know what you thought. And if you have any favorite makeup products or other tips and tricks, other channels to watch, really anything makeup related. This is not going to become a regular thing. This is like a one-time only thing per the request of folks on Instagram. So those of y'all who requested this, I hope you enjoyed it. But with that, we're going to be back to food photography next. And so with that, I hope you stay out of trouble. I'll see you soon. Bye.